Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. It's been an interesting discovery of a lot of things that we kind of already knew. They just seem to have gotten worse in seemingly every aspect in most industries, I should say. More of the bigger ones that you'd be more familiar with are things like Nintendo being really particular on what you can and can't do with hardware you purchased from them. You did not rent from them. You own this particular hardware. And they don't like that you do things that you do with them. And they claim specific reasons that sound or seem reasonable at first glance. Like, no, we're not going to let you modify and homebrew your Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, because if you were to do that, you'd pirate. It's like, hold on. I would pirate games? Or I could pirate games? I was like, okay, maybe if you want to say I could pirate, sure. Guess what? People are going to pirate anyway, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do to stop them. So they declare, like, it'd be like if you go to a Sears, which they don't really exist anymore, or go to like any, I don't know, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, like place you go to get your utensils and your, I guess, like dishwashers, all that kind of stuff. Like you go there and you buy, let's say you go buy a dishwasher. You buy the dishwasher, you take it home, you plug it in, you install it into your house, and then all of a sudden the guys you buy it from show up at your house and say, I heard you were washing the wrong type of dishes. Possibly stolen dishes. So we're going to sue you for washing the wrong dishes. And you can't, I saw your kid colored with crayon on the front. You can't do that. That's home brewing. You're not allowed to do that. How ridiculous would that sound? You purchase something from somewhere, you bring it home, it's not a rental contract, it's not on a rental agreement. You can't just make someone's rights to private property just vanish into thin air just because you feel uncomfortable with the fact that people have actual private property, right? So, that being said, why is the gaming industry allowed to do that? I mean, we have even instances of Sony being like, hey, I know you bought this entire TV show on our website, and you have your Sony library that you can access from your PlayStation or whatever, but we're wiping it. Even though you paid us $60, we're taking it down because we lost rights. Why are you losing rights, you might ask? Like, it's purchased. You can maybe lose rights to sell more of it, but you can't lose rights to having it. If anything, you'd say, well, here's a digital copy permanently yours, but you can't have it on our cloud anymore. That's one thing, right? I mean, even then you might have some issues because it's like, I purchased this specifically so I could access it on my cloud account at any moment in time from any device whenever I want to, right? Like, that's the point of the purchase on the cloud, digitally speaking. But if you at least got it on like a physical copy, so you, like, it wasn't a complete total bust, you could put it on another cloud and still access it from other things, right? But no, like, just saying we're just going to make it disappear. Why do you get the right to do this? Because for whatever reason, lawmakers don't understand what private property is. They just see it as a purchasable alternative. And I've never been fond of the copyright, trademark, and all that stuff, how it's worded and stuff. Because, like, if you lease the rights from a company, like, let's say I go and I approach Warner Bros. Or whoever has Lord of the Rings rights at the time, and I say, I'd like to buy a license so I can make a game or a short movie or something like that. And then I go make it, and then so many years passes, and they're like, oh, well, the lease is up, or the license is gone. You can't sell this anymore. Okay, that's fine. I've already, made the product, right? Personally, I think I wouldn't be able to make new products would be the proper course of action. Not that I wouldn't be able to make my product that I've been making. Like, if I made my entire business around a Lord of the Rings video game or a Lord of the Rings card game or a Lord of the Rings book or something, if I could not sell the thing I literally make my living off of, I'd be a little miffed, right? Because it wouldn't make sense to be like, I can produce something, but it's only going to be like actually sellable for a very short time period, a definitive time period. So you say, okay, well, how would you get around this? Well, you'd say licenses are per products under a time period. So you can either pay per product or you can pay for a time period and all products made under that time period. Now, one could argue that if it's per time period and you make a bunch of products like widely spread and then you turn around and sell them, it's like, well, now you have all these products as opposed to just paying per product. Now, you could do it multiple ways. You could do it per the time period and per product. So you pay for a time period, let's say 10 years. For 10 years, you have production rights in order, and in fact, of like creating new content. And then everything you make, you pay per product in like fees to whoever the license holder is. And then from there, you're able to, I don't know, sell the stuff you made. Novel idea, right? So this added with Nintendo, PlayStation, and all that stuff, we're also seeing a move towards cloud gaming. And cloud gaming is the instance in which you don't own specific hardware like a console or a computer to game. You use the servers from a host. And then you have to pay access, usually a subscription fee or something of that like, to access some games to play them. But you don't physically own them. You don't have a physical disc at your house. You don't have anything. It's literally everything's going to be online only, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But what if we just said, no, thank you, no thank you, GTFO? Like, what if we just said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay on the stuff. Now, you could argue that if cloud gaming was super, super good, maybe it's not a bad deal. I would argue against that because I would rather purchase something and own it than pay a monthly fee to access the thing I enjoy. That if you only ever played one particular game, let's say you're a WoW player and you only ever played WoW, but you couldn't own a disc or a box or a physical copy, which I don't know if they even do that anymore. But if it was, and you're like, I can choose between a physical or getting it online, and then they just host it, then you're gonna get lag or whatever. But you might not get lag. Let's assume the best. Let's assume cloud gaming is peak gaming. You never have to buy hardware. You just have to have a little thing that connects to the internet, like a little small box. I don't know, something really small. I have one right here, but I can't grab it because it's hooked up. But a little box, and it connects to the internet. It doesn't have to do any processing power except the connection to the internet. All the processing power for the game and everything is on the server side. The client side only controls like your inputs to them and everything like that. And then the internet's good enough where there's no lag, there's no latency, there's nothing bad. But you got to pay a monthly fee for it. It's like, okay, well, if it's an option and people want to take that option, go for it. But if it's the only thing you're allowed to do because everybody everywhere is making that a reality, and then they just stay with it consistently for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, eventually any new game or all the new games will become just cloud-based, and everyone's going to buy them because people want to experience new stuff. Or not buy them, but they'll be subscribed to them, so they're paying a monthly fee. Now, we saw this happen in the rise of Xbox Live, where you had to buy like a little packet or something, and then you'd have to load it up onto your Xbox, and then they charged you a monthly amount to participate in online multiplayer. Thanks, Microsoft. And then Sony followed suit, and then very, 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 very late in the game, Nintendo followed suit as well with their online categories and stuff. But we still use those things. Now, I personally don't use the PlayStation Online because I don't really want to pay for it. I mean, if I got it for Christmas or something, I'd use it. But I don't really buy multiplayer games on my PlayStation. I have a ton for Xbox, but I don't really use my Xbox for that, so I don't have Xbox Live for that. All my online gaming where it's like multiplayer and stuff, I always, that I can think of, play via PC. Now, I do have Switch Online because of the emulation stuff or the old stuff that I can't get that I can access on my Switch. But I have a physical copy of it already, so I'm not really worried. So if they cut off my ability to access it quickly and cleanly, I can always, go play the original. Like, got, Battle Tanks Global Assault. I've got Star Fox 64, Ocarina of Time, Shadow of the Empire, Rogue Squadron. I got a lot of games. Like, I got a lot, and this is just the collectibles type ones. Like, I got the pile over here, right here. Witcher 3, Dragon's Dogma, the Japanese version, Super Smash Bros, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, Pokemon games, all that kind of stuff. Like, I have a decent collection, and I have a horde more over there, and I even have a little stack here, a little stack up there. I've got a lot of games, so I could always do that whenever I wanted to, but at some point, people will break down and say, "Well, I want to try this new game that's coming out." Now, two possibilities could occur. One, game dev companies they have no choice. They put their games onto this cloud gaming only exclusive server, or also 1.5 or 1.2 or 1.8 or 1.1, whatever you want to call it. They make a physical copy. Now, if they make a physical copy, people can play it, unless some other things might happen. So we'll get to that. But if they make it just online gaming and it's subscription based, they're not going to make very much money off of it because it's going to the subscription to access a library. It won't be just a single game. Now, they could, technically speak, make a rental system where you could rent a game for X amount of time period, and then if you want to play it again, keep renting it, and they'll keep store your save files and stuff. But more than likely, it's a subscription based because that's how they get the most money, because people will get suckered in for the nostalgia factor or the excitement factor or the fear of missing out, the FOMO, and they'll do it and they'll succeed. Now, the second option is the dev companies go broke and they close studios and gaming collapses under the weight of cloud gaming because nobody wants to support it, and therefore it's not a feasible way to continue the model, and it crashes. Now, there's a very weird world in which Steam collapses, GOG no longer exists, and everything goes cloud gaming. And there's a humorous way to look at this, but also it's kind of depressing. So, the point of view, it's 2040 and the AI police found out you play video games locally on your gaming PC instead of paying the monthly gaming subscription. You're sheltering an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090 32GB, aren't you? Yeah, it's a humorous way to look at it. It's not a realistic per se. I mean, it's technically possible, not realistically, but it is possible. So, why do these companies feel emboldened to be able to do these kind of things? Why is it that we cannot just accept the fact that private property exists and you can tell somebody to shove off? If somebody wants to make an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090 32GB and sell it to you, that can happen, right? But because what we've already seen with the government not protecting our rights in private property, so if you buy something, like I go out and I buy a Switch. Now, this is the Tears of the Kingdom Collector's Edition or whatever, special edition, I guess. It's not really collector's. But if I buy this, do I own this or not? Well, I bought it and the software on it. I do not own the rights to the software, as in I cannot redistribute them or whatever the case might be. Nintendo owns those rights to the software. Just like if you were to buy an iPod back in the day, the library categorization system and everything, like the layout, the UI, all that stuff, that's owned by Apple, but I own the iPad or the iPod, just like I own this here. I own my Steam Deck. I own my PS5. I own my Xbox Series X. I own my PS4. I own my Xbox One, Xbox 360, Xbox. I own my 64. I own my GameCube. I own my Wii U. I own these systems. But for some weird reason, I can't do what I want with this. If I want to go into it and alter the software to look a cool background or have the questionnaires written in the back as a background, some things you can customize like a background. You can customize that stuff, but usually it's limited to what they let you do, and it's very difficult to do it where you can customize it to your entire preference without jailbreaking it and everything. But if they catch on to that, they can brick your freaking device. Because they actually own this. You don't actually own this. So, while this is a silly meme, it seems like the government's backing that mentality. Where, oh, I see you're sheltering a Switch that was been customized beyond our company's approval. I didn't realize I needed your approval. Imagine buying a car and then changing the tires and not using the approved tires from the approved sellers of that approved brand. Well, I see you didn't do that, so we're going to turn your car off. That doesn't make much sense now, does it? So, the government perspective is, well, yeah, of course you own this. But they also have terms of service that say you can't do X, Y, or Z, and therefore they can break the things in your house. Because terms of service. I'm just like, wait, terms of service can't just away my freaking private property rights. Like, if I don't own this, if they can come in and smash it with a hammer or an ice pick, then I don't own this piece of property if they don't get in trouble for it and have to replace it and pay me millions of dollars for doing that. Now, if I was to do something illegal, like pirate something or whatever, assuming that's still considered illegal at the point in time, I don't know, ROMs are a bit of a wishy-washy place to be, but I mean, if I own 600 copies of a game, am I allowed to download a pirated copy of it and put it on here because I already paid them 600 times of the freaking cost of the game? Like, it's stupid. There's a lot of really stupid things in it. But if I was to put something on this and homebrew it so it makes particular sounds or makes, plays, I can now play music because I put a digital media player in here that can play music from like a website or something. Like if I have a cloud-based thing where I can play my music and I could play it through this, or I can access the internet and I could tap on it, boop, 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 and then I'm now on the internet. I'm watching anime on my Switch. They'd say that's a breach of terms of service. You agreed to only use this. Like, no, I didn't. I did not agree to that, because terms of service is something where you can't just decide certain rights of mine to disappear. Otherwise, I could say, here's my return terms of service, and I will buy your product and you will shove off. Oh, I bought your product, therefore you have to shove off. Now, of course, the law bros and everything will be like, well, actually, it doesn't work that way. It has X, Y. I get that. I get that terms of service is extremely slanted in favor of companies and not enough consumers, and consumers have no consumer protections because we have consistently and constantly seen consumers get screwed and not protected. So it comes down to ultimately saying, what rights do you have to things you purchased, not rented, purchased? Do terms of service completely just remove your ability to own things and customize them? If I can go buy a phone, like a Samsung phone, and I can say, I want to customize this, blah, 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 blah. Samsung can't do squat about it. Samsung won't do squat about it. Because it's usually bad for business if you start bricking everyone's phones because they did something you didn't like in the customization category. Now, granted, most people aren't usually smart enough to do it themselves, so they might have a friend do it. Or they don't even know that the option exists because they've never considered the concept of having this existing phone be more than just what it was when they got it, because they're trained to think this is all it is. You use our apps, you use this. It's like, well, no, I can put my own APK files on there. I can customize it how I want to. I can make my phone my own. And Samsung can do crap all about it because it's my phone. But in those situations, it's like, okay, well, where does the government step in and say, you can't just brick somebody's stuff and just because you don't like it, let alone brick it and then afterwards be like, oh shoot, that was a mistake. Like that, you bricked it. It's broken, and if this, like, I don't think the switch is in circulation from like production and everything. So if you brick it, I'm toast, right? I don't have any customized stuff on it, but it's like if I was to customize it, if I wanted to put, say, like a Nintendo uh, 3DS store, the Nintendo DS store, and take all my games that I have physical copies of, but I can't. There's no slot for me to put them in. But I wanted to play them on my Switch, so I have all my DS games, my 3DS games, and my Game Boy Advance games, my Game Boy Color games, my Game Boy games. And I want to put them all on the same device so I can play them all that I have physical entities of. Why couldn't I do that? I'm not redistributing them. Like, I understand being illegal to redistribute or to distribute things that were already priorly owned, IPs and stuff. I get that. Somebody out there's doing it. But I get that you don't want to distribute it. But if I own these and I have a digital copy of it, like a ROM, and I was to say, I already own the game, but because I can't put this little cart onto this Switch because it's not the right cart, I should be able to, like, I paid for this, therefore I can put it on here. Now, there were other things about like the Nintendo store for the 3DS, is like if you have a 3DS and you buy something on there as a digital, I don't believe you can just go to the Switch and that digital game upload it to your Switch. Like just to download it back onto your Switch and then you can keep playing. Which is a good way to do things, right? But they don't do that. They don't even release the games on the new software that you can pay them more money to access, so they can basically double, triple, and quadruple dip into the people paying them for stuff. Why won't they do this? Well, it's pretty obvious because they don't have control. Nintendo stopped being a gaming company and became a business company. They don't care about games. They don't care about consumers. They care a lot more about the bottom line, which I'm all about businesses having a bottom line and making profit. But you're a gaming company. You should be focusing on what the gamers want. And then you'll see the rivers of cash plow through your building to the point where everyone's drowned by all the green that you could ever see. The gold bars are showering from the ceilings and breaking everything, shattering glass, knocking people unconscious. There's just so much freaking money, you'll never know what to do with it all. You'd also become the most popular, most famous of all game companies in the history of ever because you don't take a giant dump on your fan base or your consumers, your people who purchase from you, right? Your customers are king in the way that you try to make them happy with what you make. Like your goal is, say, I'm a gamer, I want to make gaming stuff for gamers. That's it. But you won't do that because you lose control. Same thing for Sony. Sony's been historically notoriously bad with censorship, notoriously bad with a bunch of things. But for some reason, they've been doing better than Nintendo, which is kind of embarrassing for Nintendo. But what happens when it all goes sideways? And eventually, we do get the meme. We get this meme of you're hiding physical parts to play games physically, locally, rather than paying the gaming subscription. And it's not a pretty sight because corporations should never have that much control over anything. And if they're that big to where they have that kind of control, they need to be broken up for, antitrust laws, anti-monopoly laws, that kind of stuff. Like, they need to be broken up if that's where they're going to be. because now they're just saying you can't do anything in your house. You can't run a toaster on your stuff without doing a digital subscription. You can't drive your car without a digital subscription. That should never be a thing the law protects. It can be an option, but it can't be the only thing. If I want to purchase something, like let's say I go buy a car. It's like, okay, I buy this car. I can drive it manually, or I can pay a subscription and have an AI drive me around, right? Assuming it's the best software out there and it's perfect in every way possible. I can pay them $50, $150 a month, or I can just drive myself. Well, that's an option. But if they're like, no, you bought our car for $70 million. Now you have to pay us another $1 million per year to even drive it. Because subscriptions and capitalism, it's definitely corporatism, not capitalism, but yeah, you can't be like, well, the law's no, that's very anti-consumer practices, and that's very much taking something that you purchased and taking away from you. I think it was it Mercedes? It might not have been Mercedes. There's a car company out there that was basically like, we're going to put the features of heated seats and all these cool little features in your car, but you have to pay a subscription fee, and if you don't, they're going to turn them off and you can't use them. It's like, my dudes, the materials are already there. You're selling the problem as a solution. You're saying, oh no, the stuff's locked away. We can help you for money. Well, you're the one who locked it away. Like, it's the weirdest scam in the world, because it's like, I bought this. It has all the features in it. I bought it explicitly for driving and having access to these features. That's why I paid extra money for this thing. Now you could argue, well, if they do that, they're just going to make the subscription cheaper than you buying the whole car. And that may be possible. But I would say then that's price gouging, and that should also be illegal repercussions for those types of things. It's reasonable to say, yeah, you can make 30 or 60% profit, but you can't make 150 million% profit, because 150 million% profit is, well, quite frankly, criminal. Because now you're giving me a choice, but you're not really letting me choose. Now, if I could show up with paper money that says, oh, $150 billion percentage, here you go, and then that counts, then by all means, because I won't lose anything because of it. But it doesn't make much sense. So I guess it ultimately comes down to, can a company control what you and I own when we own it? Can somebody walk into my house in the middle of me with recording a video, and I have my sound system, I've got my monitors, my TV, my games, and all that stuff, and I'm trying to inform you guys on something, but somebody just walks into my house, starts unplugging things and then taking them away when I didn't rent them, because terms of service. Is that a thing? And I know there's a lot more nuance to this. I'm not trying to brush this all with a ginormous broad stroke brush, but it is something I find concerning, because I find, like, this meme's not very realistic now. But we have this slippery slope issue in our culture where we seem to be like, oh, that would never happen. And then we just inch closer to that cliff where it happens. And we constantly keep pushing ourselves or pushing others that direction as we get pushed. And we're just, it's a constant dumpster worth of just pushing stuff into the dump. And eventually we will reach that point. We will reach the point where the law doesn't protect us. Terms of service rules the government, because in order for the government to buy computers to monitor things, they have to agree to the terms of service of the company making them, and the company making them says, we have total control over all your computers. That's in the terms of service, and therefore the companies have control over the government. And when does it end? It gets really crazy and really conspiracy tinfoil hat in that point. But it's like, when can you just say, no, you're not allowed to do that, because that's breaking into other people's rights? Like, for me, it's pretty simple. If you're breaking into my private property rights, and I'm not breaking into your IP rights, because I'm not breaking into your IP rights if I customize my Switch, or if I take my PS5 and I customize it so I can access the actual internet versus the little piece of crap internet browser thing they have. I can access software or put software into my PlayStation so I can do more with my PlayStation than what they initially allow me to do. It's like, well, if I want to put a GOG file or something on there to where I can play that game or my entire GOG library and just install, uninstall whenever I want to, it's my property. I should be able to do that. Even if it's like a stitch-in app or something. But they're not going to like that. They're not going to let you do that. It's going to count as cheating or terms of service breaking and not compliant, or whatever the case may be. But whether it be for vehicles, whether it be for gaming, whether it be for just entertainment as a broad stroke or luxury items or something, what do you think is the direction we're headed? I personally think that people are intellectually deprived and will just eat whatever the stupid plan or marketing progress or whatever. And there's going to be some reasons that seem like rational reasons for it, but there's like, okay, well, I always have to have a choice, and you always have to have the choices be fair. They can't be one heavily in favor of one than the other. You can't say, well, it's always going to be cheaper for subscription, but it's never going to be cheaper for physicality. It needs to be balanced. And in all reality, if you were doing a subscription, it'd be like $1 a month, because your operating costs, you're not making, you're making copies of a game digitally. You're not even physically making anything. The game's been made digitally. It's being produced digitally. It's being distributed digitally, and it can be infinitely copied digitally. You could literally just have one main file, and then everybody copies that file onto their computers or from the servers, access that multiple instances of however many people are playing that game. Why would I pay $60 a month to play one game that I could own for $60 permanently and never pay you again? It just seems really weird and really stupid. Though you could argue maybe the libraries that you have access to make it worth it. Maybe. I don't see how that benefits the devs. I don't see how that benefits the consumers. I only see it benefits the people who are hosting these kind of monthly game subscriptions. So, what are your thoughts? I'd like to hear them down in the comments below. I am very concerned. I am not a fan of the idea that this is going to actually be legit. I'd rather it not be legit. But who knows? Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But what are your thoughts? Leave a comment, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz. If you think I've earned your time and your appreciation. Because I appreciate you regardless. Thank you for stopping by and checking out this video. Feel free to check out the description if you would like to follow me on Twitter/X or on Discord, where I'm most heavily active, or on Criticless. I don't do TV and movie reviews really because I don't really get a chance to watch too many TV and movies. However, at some point they are going to get video game reviews on there, and I will post a ton of those because I play a lot of video games. So I'll probably go really, really ham on that. But you could also check out the other content creators that I think are worth checking out, and I would be very happy if you supported them, if you find their content fulfilling or good for you, or enjoyable or whatever, because it helps me support them by making other people aware of it. Maybe you are already aware of them all, maybe you're not, but I just want you to enjoy that content. And also, past that, at the bottom of the description, you can enjoy businesses that usually are anti-censorship, pro-free speech. They support our corner of the universe in the interwebs. So check them out, see if there's anything that would suit you, and hopefully see you guys in the next video. So as for me, thanks everybody for coming around. Remember, my friends, walk in the light.